Welcome, aloha. This is Rollin Frost, Kona astrologer. We're about to do a show of astrology, ancient science in the modern world. I got some interesting stuff to share with you today. So hang on, here we go. Now, what I hope to do today is to teach you a little bit about how to use Saturn in a constructive way. This is an ephemeris. You get these for about 20 bucks. And you should have one. You know, they cover 50 years or 100 years. Always get the noon ephemeris. Because that's 2 a.m. in the morning Hawaiian time. So this is where you get the positions of the planets. Now we're going to talk about Saturn today. A lot. Saturn is the guy that bugs people the most. When you know somebody's rising sign, you can put Saturn in that area of their chart. You say, oh, where's your trouble? Right over there. It's over here in the 4th at your home, or it's in your 11th, the group you work with, or you... Anyway, here's the way Saturn looks in the ephemeris. He's across a matter over the crescent of people. Now, what he does is make things smaller and troublesome and take things away, and in general he's even the Grim Reaper. So you want to keep an eye on him, and I want to show you a constructive way to use this guy to your benefit. Saturn, yeah, because otherwise you're going to run in fear all your life. But Saturn does an interesting thing. As it's moving around the Earth and around your chart, it moves up 3 steps and then stops and goes back 2 steps, and then moves up 3 steps and goes back and stops. Now, all the big planets do this, and it's like this in the sky because the Earth is going around the sun here, and this thing is going along slow and we're going around fast, so it's like riding a bicycle next to a train. Sometimes the train's going slow. Sometimes it's going fast. Almost looks like it's going backwards. Well, this backward motion we call retrograde. And the way to use it to your benefit is, we're going to get into that in the last half of the show, because Saturn moves up here, and when it goes by this point, it'll make a little trouble, see? And then it'll go up here and turn around and come back and make a lot of trouble. So if you watch this first point, you can kind of find out, what he's going to come back and make a fuss with. I mean, Saturn's a manager, and the boss always warns you. He says, well, the company's not doing so well. We're going to have to cut back. First time Saturn hits. Then he comes back again, and he says to you, you better look around, man. I don't know how long this is going to last. There's a second hit, Then he stops and goes forward. Bang, you get the pink slip. Company got sold. So these 3 hits. Oh, I didn't watch the screen. Shame on you, Frost. Okay, boss comes around first time. We're not doing so well. Then Saturn stops, goes backwards past the same point. The boss says, you better look around, man. And then he stops again and goes forward and goes by the 3rd time, and you get your pink slip. And that's the way Saturn works. Now look at that. He wanted me to tell you he's all about money. He's the cross of matter over the crescent of people. So he's going to fire the people and make sure the money is cool. The physical world, he's an expert in that. That's Saturn. He's the banker and the Grim Reaper. Now, I'm going to get back to that in a little bit. First, let's do the sky mirror, for program 1045. 1045 weeks I've served you. Not getting paid, You had a new moon already at 7 Sag, and that opposed the USA rising sign. We're going to get into that a lot more. But Saturn, goes around all the way about 28 years. The Buddhists say the first time he goes around your chart, it's all physical. And the second time, it's all mental. You do the same karma, the same patterns, the same ups and downs and wins and loses, but it's in a mental state dealing with people, communicating. The third time Saturn goes around, it's spiritual. So you got physical, mental, and then spiritual. And again, you go through the same ups and downs, the same patterns of your chart, but this time it's all about non-physical things. Well, what's coming up for you in the sky mirror? I drew up a chart for you. Now remember, that's not your chart. This is the ambient chart. This is the average chart. But what you see is up here, here's the sun going from 18 degrees to 28 Sag. And here's old Saturn. So, while you're there, Saturn's at 19, sun's at 18. So tomorrow, if you're in the Thursday show, on Friday, the sun's going to hit Saturn. That's why we're going to talk about the old goat. Sometimes he could be Santa Claus, huh? But most of the time he's Scrooge. Anyway, so you got a Saturn day coming tomorrow. Make a plan. Saturn, one of the things he does is he plans carefully. You take a project to the old man, and the first time he says, oh, that's a great project, Frost. Come back in 3 months and cut half the people out and a third of the budget. And, you got to rework the whole thing. You go back and present it to him. That looks really good. Now, lower the cost another 10% and lose 20% of the people and bring it back in 6 months. And Saturn goes back and hits the point the third time. He says, great, and he takes it and pours the cement and hires the people and makes the budget, etc. So, Saturn is careful because he pours the cement on things. He freezes things. He crystallizes things. You got to be careful when you pour cement. It's hard to undo. You ever heard of anybody taking away those old laws that these guys make? Laws or Saturn. Well, anyway, let's take a look at this day by day. We got the pattern of planets here, and it's made a nice bowl, they call it. There's sextiles all around in fire and air signs. One opposition to energize it all. Jupiter and Uranus, technical people. Here's scientists, and here's lawyers, professors. No, Monsanto's okay, says the lawyer, despite what the science says. There's no global warming, says the lawyer, so it's kind of stopping a lot of stuff. But Saturn's up here to judge, and he's going to hear both sides and make a wise decision, we hope. Here's Mars over here, the young warriors, and they're going to beat the drums here, and they want this issue settled out too. And I'll get more to it later. We're going to run the moon around the edge here, and as the moon goes around once a month, it goes through in one day. It kind of goes through a space about this far from here to here. 12 degrees, sometimes 15 degrees. And when it does, it makes angles, squares and trines, oppositions, multiples of 30. Whatever angle it makes to these other guys, these planets, these spirits, these people, they're people. Yes, they are. Whatever angle it makes tells us how they're getting along. So let's take a look at Friday. You're here on Freaky Fridays again because the moon is going by Uranus on Friday, the 9th of December. Happens in the middle of the day. Before you get there, early in the morning, here's a square to Pluto at 16 degrees. Eek, a bug. A little panicky when you wake up, sleep late. Then here's a nice trine to Sun and Saturn. I got a plan. I'm organized. I got the money. I got the time. And then comes the opposition to Jupiter, at 19. And the lawyer professors say, wait a minute, don't overexpand. You're overexpand. And then finally next comes the conjunction to Uranus at 20. The technical stuff, the science is okay. The unions are in harmony. We're doing this for everybody. That's a good feeling. Yes, it is. And finally, here's the sextile to Mars. The young guys are behind it, the military, the sports, that we're being heroes here with this plan we got. Yeah. Now, this is Uranus stuff. Geez, here I didn't look at the screen again. I'm sorry. Uranus. What you see on the screen is Uranus. So when Uranus is having trouble, usually I am, and TV is, and there's shakings and quakings. So, Friday is a weird day, and it's a pattern. And the little stuff that happens gives you some hints about the big stuff. Yeah. Because this is a recurring pattern every Friday, and then it's going to go back to Thursday. Oh, let's see. You're in Aries here, late Aries. The moon's in late Aries in the red part. Cardinal fire. Goes into Taurus Saturday morning. Fixed Earth. Feels real different. Everybody's physical. But there's a square to Venus. There's no sweets. There's no sex. There's no love Saturday morning. You want it, but it's a square. It's an you're stuck in it. Eat a piece of fruit. Not that sugar. Saturday. Here's a nice sextile to Neptune Saturday night after dinner. There's music, there's art, there's higher spirit. The kids are talking. There's song, there's poetry, because there's a nice trine to Pluto or to Mercury. And then discovery. 3-4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, the moon in Taurus trines Pluto. And here's, switch on your internet, the Discovery Channel, and, look for things underneath the surface. That's Pluto. What's underneath that pyramid? Sunday, the moon's still in Taurus. As you go into late afternoon and around dinner time, just after dinner, the moon squares Mars. Everybody's starting to get a little pissy about things, huh? Irritated, angry. Want to fight? Ask yourself what you're protecting. It'll pass in an hour or so. Monday, when you wake up, moon's in Gemini. It's a mutable air sign, much more adaptable, easygoing, like kids. There's a nice, nice trine or sextile, no trine, nice trine to Venus in the morning and through the middle of the day, and then there's a square to Venus. Comes up just about dinner. Square to Neptune. Comes up around dinner time and thereafter, and there's bad smells. And the music's too loud. Ugh. Tuesday, well, Saturn comes on board after breakfast. And the squares, the opposition to Saturn slows things down. Yes. But here's Uranus. Comes in here after the slowdown and the depression of Saturn. We can cut corners, be innovative, experiment, and everything's okay. Just a couple hours later, on Tuesday the 13th. Then there's an opposition to the sun. Here's a 22-degree Gemini full moon we're going to talk about soon. It's on the USA Mars. Yeah. So, but you got constructive Mars going. Look at that. Here's the moon trines Mars Tuesday night around dinner time. Get out, fix stuff. Do some maintenance. It works out well. On Wednesday the 14th, the afternoon and evening around dinner time, there's a nice trine to Neptune. Here's your music again. Here's color art music, but look out. Can't communicate. Wednesday night late, 10, 11, 12 o'clock here even. The moon's opposing Mercury. Too much noise. Can't understand the words. Starting to go into a little panic, which happens 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning Thursday. Now here's your trouble period again. With the Uranus, Jupiter, Pluto, all those bad guys that were on Friday, they worked their way back into Thursday. They'll probably be at Thursday for another few weeks. So it's panicky. There's interruptions. The electricity doesn't work very well. Thursday morning is not going to be easy. As you go towards the evening, it might ease off a little bit. I don't know. The moon's still in Cancer. On Friday, the moon moves into Leo, fixed fire sign. Feels a lot different. You got more energy, but there's no rewards. Here you are on Friday, Venus's day, vendredi in French. There's an opposition to Venus, and the girls are just irritating. The sugar, the sweets, the sex, it's all irritating. Eek. Stay away. Eat some fruit. Friday night. Don't count on pleasure. Saturday, on the 17th, well, you got a nice bunch of trines and sextiles. All we're in that fire sign where the bowl was, and it starts here with Jupiter. Hooray! Expand, and a trine to Saturn. The management says good, and then a trine to Uranus. Geez, too bad government is not making some good environmental laws here on Saturday, because it's really common sense, good solutions coming up here all over. And late Saturday night or early Sunday the 18th, here's finally a trine to the Sun, and we say, let's get this done. Whoops, wait a minute, there's an opposition to Mars. The young guys aren't going to go along as easy as you think. The physical stuff. Who's that, the military? Well, maybe we can put them to work building solar panels. I don't know. But Sunday morning, the moon shifts into Virgo, starts feeling a lot different. There's a north node Sunday night after dinner here, a lot of nurturing going on. The moon hits the north node. But Monday morning, the moon opposes Neptune. Confusion, delusion, water problems, misunderstandings. Hey, can we get technical? Here's a note to myself. I spent a lot of time on this in the last 25 years, figuring out the chart of the USA. Now, this isn't your chart necessarily. This is the government. This happened in 1776. A bunch of guys got together, formed their organization. Happens with corporations, too. The gavel falls, and the corporation votes, and the officers and say, we're going to use these to incorporate with these articles. They vote in the articles. There's the birth. So here's the birth of the government. It isn't necessarily the people. But astrologers have been goofy about this ever since I started studying it. It just seemed like they couldn't figure it out. I was amazed at what they came up with, some of them. But when 9/11 happened, I gave it a try. I'm an earthy guy. I figured it out. A Gemini rising chart. Now, I'm going to be talking about an adversarial relationship we're going to have that's going to be particularly intense in August. You already know I prepared you with Mr. Trump's changes and also the eclipse in August next year. So you're going to hear a lot more about it. This is the chart of the USA, 2:05 a.m., July 5th. 1776, Philadelphia. And what's notable, and this is the same for your chart, by the way, is the body of the creature is here on the rising sign. This is just a picture of the sky. Here's the horizon. The sun comes up here and goes down there. And here they're underneath the earth. It's a picture of the sky, folks. Don't make too much out of it. And over here is the body. This angle up here, we call the midheaven. This is the point as high as the sun goes in that day, the MC. Very important, especially for a country which is a public entity. This is the public body. Over here, on the 7th house, is where the sun goes down. They call it the descendant. This is where your partners and your enemies are. Here's their body, see? So this is the other people. This could be close partners, could also be open enemies, because it opposes the rising sign. Finally, down here at the bottom, opposite to MC, is the IC, some Latin term. There's your home, your nest, your bathtub, your refrigerator, your bed. So these 4 compass points are really important. Now that you understand that, this is the same for a country, okay? And when you look at the U.S. rising sign, who we really are, we're Gemini. A couple hundred years ago, you told people you were a Gemini, you couldn't get a job. They were known to be a little light-fingered and say right and mean left, and, yes. So speak with 2 tongues sometimes. And it would be a real problem for us, but we have a wonderful enlightenment planet, Uranus, here, right on the rising sign. Yes, we're weird and different and nerdy. Now it happens Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. That's the 10th house. That's what we're known for. That's probably the most important planet in this whole chart is Uranus. And it's sitting right on the angle on the rising sign here. Closer you are to the angle, the better the place. You know, the stronger the planet, the entity, the god, whatever you want to call it. Now the ruler of the rising sign is Gemini. Gemini, the ruler of Gemini is Mercury. So here is the body. And Mercury is here opposing Pluto, our employees and our police. But I'll get to that another time. Now what's important about this chart, we're going to be talking about this area over here. This is the 7th house. This is our partners and our open enemies. And what's happening is Saturn goes around your chart every 28 years. It goes around the U.S. chart too, every 28 years. And here I've got the U.S. chart in the center, and I've got the planets in the sky here set up for December 29th, for good reason. Anyway, and what you see, these are the transiting planets in this outer rim here. So here's the natal chart. Here's would be your chart if I do work for you. And one of the charts I'll send to you and interpret is where these transiting, called moving, planets are. And remember, all of these big, slow-moving planets go 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. So what we're focused on right now is Saturn, because Saturn is going into the 7th house. What does Saturn do? It makes things smaller, delays things, makes trouble. I mean, you're going to have a troublesome time with partners when Saturn goes through your 7th. You could even have a divorce. And that certainly pertains to the USA government. There's going to be trouble with those people, with those other countries that are close to it. And what happens is these other people become Saturn. They become Scrooge and Santa Claus in a way. Saturn oftentimes is the bear. It might be Russia, I don't know. But Saturn, see, at Christmas here is at 21 degrees 10. And you'll see over here is Mars. Now the USA has this square in it. A square is kind of a neurotic thing, okay? It goes from Mars to Neptune. And you get stuck in them and you can't stop. Mars is protecting things. Neptune is oil companies, drug companies, some of our oil-bearing friends, because Neptune rules the 7th. Mars now, he's the warrior. He's the nest of hornets we have on those aircraft carriers. Here's our fighting spirit, and we fight a little too much. We got Mars squaring Neptune. Sometimes, you know, you wonder if they're not a little gay, because they're confused about their role as Mars. Seems like whenever they go off to fight, they were drunk. Now, maybe they're just misinformed. Maybe some friends or some group, somebody in the group they believed in, a doctor, priest, artist, said some Piscean character got them stuck in a war trip. Well, over here, now we have Saturn in the 7th house. And when it opposes Mars, it says, you're being over-aggressive, and don't get pissed at me, I'll get pissed at you right back. And it kind of sets off and triggers the anger. And of course, after it opposes Mars at 2137, a month afterwards it squares Neptune, and there's confusion and delusion. And do we really start the war on all that false information? Okay, well, what happens, and the reason I'm going into this now, is because, where's my notes? Saturn hits that opposition to Mars on January 5th, 2017. That's when it's exact. Now, stuff can happen, you know, a week early, a week after this, but this is the date of importance. And then you know what happens is that Saturn moves up to 27, and it comes back again and goes by there July 24th, 2017. And then it stops in August and gets really strong. Remember, when a planet is making that stop and reversing direction, these stations are where it's strongest. So it's strongest in middle of August. Yes, August next year. And then it goes forward and opposes our Mars again September 24th, 2017. So Saturn, moving up, coming back, and going forward is going to test our Mars Neptune a lot, because it's squaring Neptune and opposing Mars. And that ain't good. So now, is this war? I kind of doubt it. Because, well, some people, happens in their chart, they do have a war. It's called a divorce. But, we've spent more than the rest of the world on armaments. We got more. Our Navy's bigger than the rest of them all put together, and hard to pick a fight when you're talking to a professional fighter who's famous for getting, becoming, going into over-dramatization of the Mars. When I was in Japan, I walk into a store, this is 50 years ago, and the girls behind the counter would giggle and put their hand over their mouth. And we asked them why, some of the men we met, and they said, oh, they think you're all John Wayne. That's all they know. Americans are all John Wayne in the movies. So there's this over-dramatization of Mars. Anyway, Saturn's going to make a mess of this, and you know the timing. And here's that period in August that kind of got meaningful to me. Yeah. Hey, while I was on the chart, I wondered why we're blowing the environmental thing so badly. Neptune up here at the top of the chart is going back and forth, squaring Uranus, the environmentalists here, and our public reputation. Total scandal. The world's watching us. They know we're the main cause of global warming, and we really hurt the world, and we got to clean up our act. But what happens when Neptune, does this square is you get public confusion about global warming, pesticide, drugs, oil companies, the water in the ocean. We've been like a stone drunken person staggering around out there, not so hot, huh? Okay, here's more before I run out of time. Eek! Here's progressions. The progressed moon's gone into the 7th house. 2 years. It's like transiting Saturn. Bums you out. That moon is going to oppose Mars July 13th. Yes, next year. Really close to the August time, huh? Years ago, I was one of the world's experts on getting oil out. Something happened when I was 30, and I realized it, and I quit.